5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I should suffocate, what for? Train under trees, please pardon my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands, and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Ain't no challenge for champions and chain no fear. Yeah, the champions here.
Welcome back, everybody, to another amazing episode of Paleocrat Diaries. Today is Wednesday, September 30th, and I gotta say, first of all, I apologize for being late. I really do. I apologize. There was a whole bunch of stuff that needed to be put together first, to be honest. And after last night, and that's all we're going to talk about. Just to let you guys know. I mean, we'll have memes. Okay, we'll have meme review because that's fun. I didn't even get any fun articles to talk about right out of the gate. Normally I do. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to have some kind of, super happy fun time stories at the beginning to brighten your day. But the truth is that I don't know if that would suffice. And I think people would be getting ticked off. They'd be like, look, why don't you just get to the point? We all know what we're going to talk about. Okay, we all know right now. And I think that there will be people familiar with this show who are going to be a little bit surprised, right? At least if they did not watch yesterday's program. If they didn't watch yesterday's show, then they may be surprised by some of the things that I say. And I stayed up pretty late, okay? Actually, I watched the majority of the debate with the kids, allowed them to stay up way past their bedtime to watch it. And after it was done, I guess they cut out about 20 minutes ahead of time because it was just really late. A couple of them were already asleep and stuff. Athanasius was awake. He's 13. And he's the most tuned in of all the kids to this kind of thing. And we talked afterward, and I asked some questions, my wife and myself and him. We sat around and we talked about the debate. In fact, he's old enough to remember the debate that happened between Hillary and Trump, as well as the debates that happened in the primary. And we used to watch Can't Stump the Trump. Right? I don't know if you've ever seen those videos. They're hilarious. And so, especially the debates, involving Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and Jeb Bush, right? Can't Stump the Trump was hilarious. So my son, I would say he grew up on those, right? He grew up watching that stuff. And so he wanted to be able to see it. And I think people might be surprised by the conversations that took place and the questions that were asked, right? And I think, first of all, let me say this as just a refresher. Number one, I said yesterday, and I've said for a long time, that debates on television are not serious affairs. And people who take them seriously don't really understand, number one, the medium they're using, okay? And number two, the pageantry of sound bites. And in this point, it's not even sound bites. It's like, it's if sound bites were blogs, right? And you would have, let's say, 15 seconds would be a sound bite. Nowadays, it's been Twitterfied. And so now the sound bites are super duper quick. And you can see how this works. The super, super small sound bite. You can see how this works by going to Mark Dice's channel. Because Mark Dice, he has a video, and I like Mark Dice. I agree with him on a lot of things. I like his sense of humor, for the most part, right? I would love to meet him one day. Would love it. But in the video, he takes really, really brief clips and shows parts where there's zingers or where a powerful moment was. But around that, in the ordinary width of a soundbite, around that is chaos. You have to peel away both sides of that, okay? But as I said yesterday, and I pulled out a book. I'll show everybody again. Because if you're somebody who went to this debate and you're like, man, I'm taking this really seriously. Number one, you should listen to this show. You should listen to the show because it sets a bar of low expectation on things that, in all honesty, are matters of low expectation. TV news is a matter of low expectation. How seriously can you take TV news when people, number one, pretend that they're neutral, pretend that they're objective, pretend that they're fact-checking, when what they're doing is, in some cases, look, people can say, how can you say they're not really doing fact-checking? Because we do live in a world where one group can put together an assortment of facts that demonstrate what they believe to be their point, while another group can assemble facts that they believe can counter that or establish theirs. And that's where we are. We're in a place, and I've said this for years, we're in a place, in technical words, it's called siloing. Jon Stewart, of all people, Jon Stewart, Daily Show, and I miss that guy, by the way. I don't like Trevor Noah, just to be honest. I don't think he's funny. I just thought, I thought Jon Stewart was such a hilarious guy. Maybe I'm nostalgic about that, but I'm not a fan. So Jon Stewart had a graphic, an infographic that was shared. I don't know if it was Atlantic or where it was, but he shared this graphic that was a poll to find out, where do people get their news? And how do they identify on a political spectrum? And what they found was that people on the right get their news from right-wing sources. People on the left get theirs from left-wing sources. And there really was no middle anymore. And there really wasn't any sources that could objectively be said to have been in the middle. Right? I mean, it's a tough deal. I think the closest ones that you could have would be ones that are faithful and true to the fairness doctrine. And I know a lot of conservative people who really loathe the fairness doctrine, but there's a point to being able to have people on the hard left and people on the hard right being incorporated, not as though it's like a partisan thing, but just a normal existence thing, because in fact that's what it is. That's what it is. Right? And so rather than this fake phony thing that says that Anderson Cooper is nonpartisan, right? Or that Don Lemon is nonpartisan, instead of that, it would just simply say where people stand. And that would be, I think, a relief for journalists, where journalists wouldn't have to pretend. Chris Wallace wouldn't have to pretend. Okay? And so if we understand the medium, and that the whole thing is pretend, a lot of these people are not real journalists in the first place. They're actors. They're people who know how to read a script. If you know how to read, and you can read a script and practice, and it's not easy. A lot of people might think, oh, I can read a script. That's perfectly fine. Piece of paper, I can read that. It scrolls. And when you practice that, the idea is that you actually learn to be reading ahead. So you're like way ahead of the words you're saying. So there's two mechanisms going off at the same time. Okay, it's multitasking. It's not easy. Try it sometime. It's actually really hard. And try sometime to read ahead so that you're like, let's say 5-6 words ahead while saying the words that are 5-6 words behind. So I don't want to dog them as if they have no talent. They're great at acting. And a lot of this is pageantry. Again, going back to Jon Stewart, who's not a friend of my beliefs, by the way. Okay, I'm showing you my hand, and that I can give credit to where it's due, regardless of whether or not they're technically on my team. But he went on Crossfire. And I used to like Crossfire. It's that from the left and from the right. Do-do-do-do-do. All that music like that. And he went on there, and that was back in the day when Tucker Carlson was on. I think Paul Begala was on the left, I think, for that one. And Jon Stewart just annihilated them. Just annihilated them. And talked about how this whole thing was fake. How a lot of times these guys don't even believe what they say they believe. They have to pitch it. It's no good. By the way, jazzed up on coffee. I have to be after that last night. And if you hear a little bit of that tone loc in my throat, right? If you hear a little bit of that tone loc in there, it's because I was up really late talking to numerous people. People calling, people sending messages, wanting to chat. And we'll talk about some of those too. Okay, so we're going to get to that. If you'd like to comment, just remember, all the comments that come through, it doesn't matter where you are. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitter, watching on Periscope, doesn't matter. It will all go into this feed, and I'll be able to engage in real time. We'll even have a little comment screen pop up. But it's difficult to take this too seriously. It's difficult to take it too seriously if you know what news is. You have to ask yourself, how serious of an endeavor is it if it begins with music that is meant to prime you? Today, Wolf Blitzer's going to be doing blah, blah, blah. Right? Join us as we talk about blah, 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 blah. I've got music to prime you. I'm entertainment. I try to fuse it, entertainment and enlightenment. I'm not commercially programmed, so I don't have a bunch of sponsors that I have to appease. Unlike them, that affects even what they do. Again, not real. And think of this. Remember yesterday in the book, and I said I would show you the book right here. If you want to be a serious person, and I don't say this very often, but I will right now. If you want to be a serious person and you want me or anybody else in the universe to rightfully take you serious regarding your opinion concerning the news or anything to do with television and mass media, please buy this book. It's not long. It's not long. It's like what? Let's see here. 163 pages. It's like reading Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. You could do it in a day. You could do it, even if it took you 2 or 3 days, you could do it easily in a week. Not even a problem. Slow reader, doesn't matter. But this book breaks it down. And so does this one. I'll show you one more. Hold on. Let's see. There we go. Right here. Here's another book that I'll show you. By the same author, in fact. How to watch television news. How to watch TV news. Neil Postman. He breaks down what it is and why it's not believable, why it's not a serious endeavor, and why it's actually a harm to our republic to take it very seriously at all. You can see it. Look at the people right now who, rather than going, well, that was just a shame, instead are really riled up. It's dangerous for our democracy. Blah! All the while, they don't even understand that television news itself is dangerous to the democracy. And we're a constitutional republic if we want to split hairs. It's actually a meaningful difference. They get all riled up. You've been played. You've been played, homie. Not this show. Not me. Not the people who pay attention, who have their brain turned on. They know better. So they can go into this and go, okay, this is a matter of optics. Now, there are still judgments that can be made. Optics do play, I'm Machiavellian, right? So, optics still play a big, massive role. And whether or not people should take television news seriously, the fact is they do. The fact is they do. Which is why, one of the reasons why I talk about the news on what is essentially a TV show. Tune in every single weekday morning at 10 a.m. It might be a little bit late. Might be a little bit late. The thing is that yesterday when we talked about this, we talked about how this was a commercial with short and simple messages where they're preferred to long and complex ones. Didn't you get that right out of the gate when they said they're going to ask questions and you have 2 minutes to answer? 2 minutes. Issues about race. Issues about the economy. Sum it up in 2 minutes, sir. All of our viewers have a real difficult time focusing. Because you're spoon-fed on SpongeBob. No offense to SpongeBob. I enjoy the show. But the idea that it hasn't had a dramatic effect, and not just SpongeBob. I don't want to throw that little guy under the bus. Right? But the idea that this all hasn't affected the way that we're able to process information. We are a joke. Which is why, by the way, when people come And they're really mad about the situation we're in. And I say it's a civil war. We're in it right now, folks. Right now. You may not like that. I am sorry to tell you that. And I think that was on full display. You know, but when they talk about this, they'll say they propose revolutionary changes. Revolutionary. Big, massive changes. These are people who can't focus, man. This is a civilization that can't focus. I have, behind the curtains, I'm able to see the analytics. And not just of my show, but a bunch. Not just my website, but a bunch. And years long going back. And you know what I found? People just one thing after another thing, after another thing, after another thing. Like my old co-host Joe Elder used to say, little piece of candy. Little piece of candy. They eat that for a second. Yeah, and then they see another one and they scurry off to that. YouTube knows it. Facebook knows it. They all know it. They play into it. But that civilization and those people, what's amazing is how seriously they take themselves. It's nostalgia. Atari rambling on. Dude, you're a little piece of candy, Atari. Atari says, "You gonna make a point? I've made a bunch of points. Can you not process this? Are you one of those riled up, panties in a bunch, watching mainstream news, taking it seriously, sharing with your buddies and pals? You don't want to be educated, go watch Sesame Street." I don't need to deal with that. I don't need to deal with it. You can turn the channel, homie. Don't faze me. Rambling, talking about books. Talking about the nature of our civilization. The place where we found ourselves. Looking in a mirror. You might not like that. It might make you uncomfortable, Atari. It might make you uncomfortable. You might not like looking at yourself for very long. It's easier to look at other people. That's fine. Wrong show, bro. If you'd like to post a comment, make sure to post it. Oh, he's watching on Periscope. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, a Twitter guy. Yeah, man. Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, you're a demo. Got you. Got you, buddy. All right. So here's the thing. We'll go through it. We'll go through it right here. I posted on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. Jeremiah.Bannister. What did you take away from last night's debate? Did anything said or done change your mind or your vote? And what do you hope to see or hear going forward? Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. I drew that little guy, by the way. I drew that was years ago. A friend of mine asked me to draw that for the cover of a diary. Bunch of comments. We'll go through some of these, okay? But I want to go through this first. So here's the thing. After it was all over, I talked to my son. And I asked him. I said, so, you know, if you had to think, what was Biden's greatest strength? Because we're Trump people. We support Donald Trump. So I wanted right away, rather than going, you know, playing into any of the biases that he might have, I wanted to say, what were some things, just kind of take him for a loop. What were some of the strengths? Same thing with my wife. And she said things that a lot of people said, too. Biden looking into the camera. Now, he did look into the camera sometimes when he was talking to Trump, which is really awkward because you normally don't do that. You normally look into the camera. It's a rule of optics, you know. When you're talking to a person, you look at the person. That's why you look at the camera when you're talking to the audience. That's why I'm looking in the camera right now instead of doing this. If I'm looking like this and talking to you, that's awkward. If I talk like this, not. So he's obviously There was a little bit of struggle. There was a little itsy bit of struggle going on with that. Talked about how he didn't interrupt as much. And I would add to that, not nearly as much. Not even close. And then I asked, what were Donald Trump's weaknesses? And they already revealed that a little bit by saying, he interrupted a lot. And he did not look into the camera. Now that's purely a matter of optics and the way that you feel, the way that those things make you feel. It's not getting into questions regarding facts. But look at this. Frank Luntz reports, this is the Washington Examiner. People were really mad. People were really mad. In fact, he said he didn't have a thesaurus that could contain all of the angry descriptors people were using. People were mad. Unsurprising. Totally unsurprising. Because people come in with these weird expectations that it's going to be a serious affair. They like the pageantry, and they don't mind the facade. Or maybe it's just simply a reflection of the idea that regardless of how bad things are, they would at least hope, and again, nostalgia, they would hope that it was the kind of thing that happens, that they're accustomed to in the past. We're in a post-Christian world. That whole concept, and I said this so many times, the whole idea of debate, the whole idea of free speech, the whole idea of being able to analyze facts, linear thinking, that's under attack right now. Ask the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Ask SJWs. That's some whiteness stuff, by the way. But people were mad. And then you have Stupid Town. I don't even know why Fox News shared this. This is, what the heck? Trump campaign and RNC declared Trump the winner. Can you believe it? Can you believe that? Why would you even post this? And this is, again, the non-seriousness of the news. This is Brooke Singman. I wonder if Brooke came up with this or if Brooke was assigned this. And I wonder what she thought when they were like, hey, look, we want to know who Trump and the RNC believe won the debate. Now, I mean, look, maybe they were hoping that there was a kind of self-reflection that was expressed by William Buckley Jr. Okay, William F. Buckley Jr., National Review, founder of National Review. If you haven't seen this documentary, I strongly encourage it. In fact, it's a documentary that I've encouraged a lot of people to watch. And what it is, it's entitled Best of Enemies. In Best of Enemies, it's Buckley Jr. and Gore Vidal, and it's the presidential conventions. What year was it? Chicago, right? Riots, all sorts of stuff. A lot of racial tensions that are like right now, and with a candidate at the time for the Democratic Party that was maybe the most idealistically left that they'd had in a very long time. And, these networks in the past, they used to have it where they would just have a camera set up, and it was real bland. It would have a camera set up, and what would end up happening, they wouldn't even move it. It would just simply be there, the whole convention. They wouldn't interject. There weren't a bunch of commercials left and right. It was just there, like C-SPAN. Okay? Well, one of the networks decided that it was, they were doing very badly in the ratings. So they had this idea, and they said, what if we got the best debaters, one from the left and one from the right? What if we got that? And we put them together, and after every night, these two get together, and they debate those issues that were said throughout the day. And Buckley Jr., of course, debater of the age, and he said he would do it with one exception. He wouldn't do it if Gore Vidal was sitting in the other chair. So what did they do? They went and they got Gore Vidal. It's what they did. And he acquiesced to it. He said, okay, I'll do it. It was a landmark moment in the history of conventions, of politics, of news. It's got a dramatic ending, in fact, because what ends up happening, not only the way that it impacted the news, and now we have what we have now, a lack of seriousness. You know, they use the word, you know, the crap show. I won't say, I won't swear. A lot of people are watching this, kids and stuff. Poo-poo show. Okay. That it resulted in this because that was the moment that the very first time in the history of television, in an otherwise serious moment, they were arguing to such a degree that one of them snapped, and it was William Buckley Jr. He was being called a proto-fascist. He was being called a Nazi. And he looked over at Gore Vidal and he said, "You say that again, I'm going to punch you in the GD mouth. And you'll be laid out on the floor and you'll stay plastered." Everybody aghast. Gore Vidal knew that he got him. He knew that he got him. And Buckley went back into the dressing room. He went back there and he was devastated because he knew that what he had done, while being maybe a reasonable, an otherwise reasonable response, that it was a big deal. And in fact, that it was going to potentially, you know, maybe even ruin his career. He was afraid. But it was a self-reflective moment for a self-reflective man. So maybe that's what they were hoping, that they would say, look, maybe they'll say, yeah, we won, except blank, blank, blank. We think we could have done this better. Different times, man. By the way, Petgrave in the comment section, no, you did not miss the first 25 minutes. We started 15 minutes late. But we had instances in this whole thing. So accepting the idea that this was a poo-poo show and that there was just blah, blah, blah back and forth, out of control. It was out of control. If we accept that, okay, beyond that, if we actually got to those little nuggy nugs of substance, what was it? And I'd love to hear, by the way, if you're watching this, I would love to hear right now, what were your takeaways? What were your takeaways? Do you take this really seriously? Do you? Do you think we should? Do you think if we should, do you think that it should have even been televised? Big question. No joke. Do you think that it should have been, let's say, even radio only? Joe Rogan said that he would do a 4-hour debate. He would host it. In my opinion, that is a much more serious proposition than what Fox News did. It's a more serious proposition than any of the TV debates that we've ever had. It's closer to Lincoln Douglas. No joke. And if you don't know why, you're not listening. And I'm serious. Go and find out how long those debates were. How long people had to sit there. It's an all-day affair. But there were moments. And I want to see, you know, what your ideas are, what you think of these. Okay? Biden not answering the question on ending the filibuster and packing the court. Instead, simply saying that people should vote. Did you notice this, by the way? It was more than just one thing that Biden did this with. Why would he do that? In fact, he was prepped on it. He was prepped on this, man. Because so was Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was asked later by Jake Tapper if she would do the same thing. He said, are you going to support packing the court and ending the filibuster? And she wouldn't answer. And at the end, she goes, and thank you for the question, Jake. And he laughed at her. Okay, yeah. She wouldn't even respond. Just vote for me. Just vote for me and you'll find out. Wow, really? It was like that on a bunch of things. And also, and I don't mean to be rude, but did anybody notice the Botox that Biden got? You know, people were joking, saying that, you know, he needed to rest up. You know, Corona Joe needed to rest up, take a lot of naps and stuff. And I wonder if it's because, you know, when you get, I guess I don't know how long it would take once you get those injections. Like, what's up with that right away? I mean, I remember Kamala Harris when she got stuff done to her face. It was when what was it? What was it? There was a reason why she ended up being on TV. Was it Ruth Bader Ginsburg? No. I forget what topic it was, but they had her. They had her out on TV, and her face, it hadn't settled yet. And it was just, I mean, and she's a pretty lady. Number one, I don't know why she would even do that. Like, what's the point of that? You know, but more than that, she comes on, her eyes, I mean, it was like clownish. Becca Ruba on YouTube says, take the debate seriously? No way. Debates have turned into taking clips to use in ads. I wouldn't declare a winner, but I will say Chris Wallace lost. No. Justin says, the facts about the debate are significant, but not the debate contestants' responses. The fact that Biden showed up matters. Displays of allegiance from the moderator, etc. Others say that Chris looked weak. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to skip over this. Although, look, it's interesting. The slumlord linked to Ilhan Omar also owned the club where George Floyd and Derek Chauvin worked that later burnt down during the riots. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Biden claims he did not call military members stupid bastards. This is one of those things. I had a friend who was talking to me afterward, my buddy. And he told me, he said, you know, if people lie in a debate like this, and it's libelous, or it's just obviously a lie, there has to be a way to do fact checking. And there are. I mean, people can go on to their preferred sites and have fact checkers, right? And I said it before, that there was a value in the past to having a mainstream media, because at least, you know, whether or not it completely represented our values, it represented them in a way similar to a representative of our district, right? A state representative or a federal representative. That person might not entirely represent my values, but at least I have access to that, right? There's a way to deal with that. Nowadays, they're just so brazenly partisan, right? It's just not even a question. And maybe they always have been, but at least they played the game. Especially when our news was still largely defined by the written word, the typographical mind. It's a huge difference. A huge difference. But Biden claims that he did not call military members stupid bastards. That's just a lie, by the way. There's a video of this. Now, that video can be taken in different ways. I think you can have an uncharitable one that says that he's up there and he's looking out, talking to people in the military, and that it was this kind of slip moment where he really let his guard down and said, "You stupid bastards." Or you can say it's Joe Biden. You could say it's Joe Biden. He's got this kind of tough guy thing going on. And I think that he's playing loose, you know, fast and loose with people in the military. If I was there, when I was in the Navy, if I was there and I'm hearing him say that, I wouldn't be like, dude, does he think deep down inside that I'm a stupid bastard? I wouldn't think that. But I also would have heard it. Well, you can hear it for yourself. You can actually go and see the clip. I wonder if they show it. They've got to show it in here. Yeah, right there. Here's the video where he calls him that. You can see. There's his wife. Yeah. So you should go check that out. Because, and what's amazing is this, is Biden says, play it. Play it. He wouldn't want that. In the same way that Trump wouldn't want, and he kept demanding you do it, say law and order. And not only did Biden do it, he said law and order with justice. You don't want to do that. That's a bad debate tactic, by the way. And to say, oh, you just lost the left, that's not a good tactic either. because it's highly unlikely that he did. Read the comment sections. How many people on the radical left, right, as far as the terroristic left, by the way, how many of those have you seen today that are like, you know what, after last night, Biden said that he supports law and order with justice, I'm not voting for him anymore. That's a bad tactic, man. It's bad debate. Not serious. Another one of these accidental things, but I won't skip it. Democratic Governor Tom Wolf and Pennsylvania State Representative Wendy Ullman caught on a hot mic calling face masks political theater. There's a video of that. We're learning a lot about that, including the whistleblower, by the way, talking about the World Health Organization. Fact check. Trump paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes. Is it true? It came up. And a lot of the questions, if I think personally, and I said this yesterday, that the topics for the show are perfectly fine. I don't think that those topics favored one candidate or another. In fact, if I had to say it favored anybody, it would favor the one that was in a better position from the get-go, and that's the incumbent president. So I disagreed with a lot of people on the MAGA side of things and said, why do you think that they should focus on China and Israel instead? Like, you can throw it out there. It's a very important thing. I don't want to diminish something that's the just cause of being nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. But at the same time, give me a break. These are fine topics, even if the question is framed badly, which I anticipated because I said that homeboy, the moderator, Chris Wallace, is a deep state stooge. He is. Chris Wallace is a deep state stooge. That's a hard thing to say about him. But did he? Did he pay it? Verdict, true. Going back to issues to do with the New York Times reporting, which who even believes a lot of that anymore? Who believes that anymore? By the way, remember, we talked about the 1619 project? We talked about that, how they've been secretly deleting key core concepts of their position. 9 months? 9 months they've been doing this? The kind of weird retractions they've had to do. How many things did they talk about where Russia hacked the election? And how many people do you know who are still bedazzled by that lie? To this day. A lot of people. It's really sad. Yeah, when Trump eventually filed his tax returns for those years, he said his tax liability should have been $750. In other words, Trump was saying he overpaid his taxes. That's a difference, man. That's a huge... let's say I'm fined for something, and I end up having to pay $1 million. And I say, I should have only been fined that. And people go, he only paid that much money. Big problemo, man. Big problemo. There was a big debate over who could fill a classroom. And look, this is one of those things that, were it not completely surrounded by the chaos, would have been a valuable bit of information. It's true. Like, the enthusiasm gap is dramatic, which I think is one of the reasons, and people can say, well, it's only because of the virus and everything else. They don't have problems going out and protesting. They're not going to tell people to cool it off and go inside. They're not going to do that unless it's the people protesting where they don't agree with them. Then they'll do that, because the virus has this magical ability to distinguish between MAGA and BLM. That's just science. But the thing is that the enthusiasm gap is without doubt. Without doubt. It's hard to be enthusiastic about a guy who stays inside all the time. We showed his calendar. And the days where he's put a lid on it around noon, meaning there's nothing else. Is basically every Tuesday and almost every Saturday of the month and a whole bunch of other days. Who is enthusiastic about that? And this, it brought up something. I thought, when my family asked me, what did I take away from it about Biden? I said there were moments where I could imagine people feeling pity for him last night. right? He didn't come across as strong. Even in the one time he did, which, by the way, the one time he did where he got really, really ticked off, talking about, how dare you say this about the military, premised on a lie, or at least in all probability a lie, when you say you have how many people who anonymously say that Donald Trump ridiculed veterans and the military, and you have this many people on the record being willing to testify that says they were there and that never happened, and you stack those two things up, the probability quotient on that, way, way, way down. And he also got riled up when he was talking about racism. And that was actually a moment that he used visualization very well. He said, remember those tiki torch racist people. Remember them, veins bulging out of their angry foreheads, spewing anti-Semitic things. Then he followed it up with just a brazen lie. You've never condemned white nationalism. What a joke, dude. People who believe that, again, are not serious people. They're not. They're not serious people, because we're going to show all the instances where this happens. Not all of them, a bunch of them. There's a whole thread. You can go and read the whole thread of instances, one after another, after another, after another. And for him to even have to do it again is offensive. Almost as offensive as the moderator lumping in the KKK and the Proud Boys. That's crazy. Just go look at some of the Kalamazoo rally pictures. You've got members of the Proud Boys who are black. I don't know, maybe the KKK has a bunch of black members. Maybe the KKK is led by someone who's an Afro-Cuban. Maybe the KKK has kicked people out because they support racism. Like what happens, Canada? Maybe the KKK, the very first thing that they tell you in the KKK is, if we find out that you are involved in any way with any of these neo-Nazi or white separatist or white nationalist, white supremacist groups, then you're out of here. You wouldn't even be considered to join at any degree. Maybe the KKK does that. That's weird, KKK. Not serious people. But the enthusiasm gap is dramatic. You can see these pictures. We show them on the show where Joe Biden, it's not even Joe Biden. Joe Biden's got 5 people. His wife's got maybe 10. They're waving outside of planes where nobody's even there. Pointing, hey, what's up? All phony, baloney, fake stuff. Cherie says taking things out of context is the protocol of the day. Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. 100%. Roy Duarte de Andrade. I don't know how to pronounce that name, bro. I hope I didn't wreck it. Trump 2020, the most pro-life president ever. Yes. Lurt Gertz said he saw the movie talking about Best of Enemies, what I mentioned just a little bit ago. It's a great movie, man. A great movie. Fact check. Joe Biden claims Donald Trump told people to inject bleach into their arm. Verdict, mostly false. President Donald Trump questioned an expert during a press conference about the value of injecting disinfectant or ultraviolet rays into the body to kill the coronavirus. He did not tell Americans to inject bleach into their arm. That's just an uncharitable reading, by the way. It's an uncharitable reading. It's not even a necessary one. Remember how I just got done saying this, and I wish the people on the left were able to do this. I don't know many people on the left who are able to do this. Where, for example, when I just talked about Biden being at the military group, talking to them and calling them, that's when you're supposed to clap, you stupid bastards. When he said that, a charitable reading of that is he's being playful and fun with tough guys and tough girls. Okay? It's the way he talks. He's probably thinking he's having fun. Not that he's sitting there going, oh, deep down inside, I think these people are just dumb. Same thing with this. The idea that Trump is telling individual American people, go out and buy some bleach and put it in a needle and put it in your arm. That's so disingenuous, man. That's sad. It's symptomatic, though, of a civil war. It's symptomatic of a place where people are so unserious that they're dangerous. Dangerous people. This is somebody's opinion. Jim Hoft. I like Jim Hoft, but, I don't even know if I would say winners and losers. I'd say this is a quantitative thing. We'll talk about it. When Joe Biden lost, Chris Wallace, have you called Portland mayor or Oregon governor to stop violence? Joe Biden, I don't hold public office now. That is actually a serious problem. That reflects on him, by the way. And they know it. That's why the Democratic wing of the, not even Democratic wing, the media wing of the Democratic Party, also known as mainstream media. They were freaking out about it and starting to see that the riots were causing serious problems. The fact that Black Lives Matter has plunged in public opinion by over 15%. Dramatic. Dramatic, man. They knew it. Tough stuff. For the candidate to be like, oh, I don't care. I'm not in office. I can't go in and reach out to them. He should have. I would have had more respect for him if he did. I think he would show that he has more respect for the country if he did. And for his own party. Fact check. Joe Biden says report of Russian billionaire paying Hunter's firm $3.5 million is totally discredited. Verdict false. Biden's private equity firm received a $3.5 million wire transfer from Yelena Buturina, according to a Senate report. Hey, man. It is what it is. And think about it. I mean, there's a reason why Hunter is not around. He's just not around. Everybody's talking about him. Where is he? He's poison. Biden doesn't want him anywhere near it. Biden doesn't want him, his problems, his new kid, who Biden doesn't even recognize. It's his grandchild. It's like the kid doesn't exist. Which, by the way, I mean, look, I think it would show him to be a better person, but it's all a political calculation. It's tragic. Kellyanne Conway responds to, quote, creepy, sleepy, weepy Biden attributed to her, saying, you lied. For those who don't remember, lying Joe Biden was enabled by Chris Wallace during the sham of a debate tonight with President Trump. At one point in the debate, Biden commented with a quote and attributed it to Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne called him out. Thanks for the debate shout out, creepy, sleepy, weepy Joe, but you lied. And don't sniff my hair either. Yeah. What? Oh, yeah, I remember now. Yeah, she didn't say that the violence happening in Democrat-run cities is better for us. The truth is, we all know that that's actually true. So whether or not she said it, I'll say it. I'll say that. Mention me in the next debate, if there even is one. If there even is one. And Joe's in a real pickle with that. If he says no, Trump could use it, and people could be like, well, his hardcore supporters would be like, that's good. But anybody that might be on offense at all, if there even is anymore, and that's a calculation he's got to think about. But I'll say it. That violence happening all over the place, Portland, Seattle, Oakland, Chicago, St. Louis, Louisville, all that violence, that reflects very poorly on Joe Biden. it reflects poorly on Democrats. Why? Because one guy for a very long time was saying that we need to put an end to it, and then demonstrated in Kenosha, Portland, demonstrated that you even threatened to go in. They disappear. They run like rats. But people should not be afraid to say stuff like that, by the way. They shouldn't be afraid to talk that way. It's totally realistic. Whether we like it or not, these things do play into it. We know that. Kashawn Petgrave wrote in the comments, honestly, I was hoping from Trump was an attempt to gain new voters. He unfortunately played to his base. If Trump attempted this, he'd be unstoppable. Bethany Heikala says they totally skipped over BLM too. Yeah. Well, here's the amazing thing. The reason why is because, did you hear this, by the way? Did you hear this? When Chris Wallace summed up the idea of critical race theory as racial sensitivity classes? That's outrageous. That's outrageous. It's the new Jim Crow. These people are race baiters par excellence. I talk about it on the show. Man, every single show I've done, it's come up. We've talked about this, demonstrated it, shown the quotes, broken down that philosophy and worldview, the claims that are being made, and the evidence that they try to use, if they even use it. A lot of them don't even believe in that. That's whiteness. It's about narratives. But to sit there and to call that racial sensitivity classes, I've gone on record saying if you are a white person and you've been in any of these classes where you've been told you're a racist, even if you haven't thought racist thoughts, even if you haven't done racist things or said racist words, you need to sue them. Sue them. Especially governmental agencies. Sue the living daylights out of them. Drop them to their knees. Trump's argument was actually good. It's an attack on American values. It's an attack. It's an attack on the idea red, yellow, black, and white. We are precious in his sight. Amen to that. Amen to that. Yeah, Judy says Biden's taking a train trip today. If Biden gets in there, will be no airplanes. You'll have to take a train. Not entirely sure what that's about. If Biden gets in there, will be no airplanes. Oh, yeah, okay. I got you. Yeah, the Green New Deal. And do you hear that? The confusion on that, by the way? Justin writes, anyone on the fence that heard that and knows about the violence is voting Trump. Yes. And that's why I believe that we should share the instances of violence. I believe that we should share the images of the people who've been arrested for this violence. I know that people say, well, you're putting people's lives at danger. You are putting people's lives at danger. You're putting people's livelihoods in danger because of your warped Marxist crap. Yes. I will bow my knee only to Jesus Christ. That's Rui on YouTube. Yes. I said that yesterday. I said, take a knee for Jesus. It's the only way we get out of this. It's either going to be bloodshed. I'm sorry to say this. I don't mean to be sensationalistic. People who know me know that, number one, I predicted that if this ball started rolling years ago, that snowball would get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it would make it difficult. And there are landmarks along the way that you can say, well, at this point, when people started calling their relatives Nazis, Even though if you'd really challenged them and said, what are the core foundations and pillars of fascism? Who created the idea? What are central tenets that without it no longer has its essence? Most of them wouldn't be able to answer that at all. They would just simply drum up things that they disagree with. Transphobia, homophobia, all the phobias and isms that I don't like, robot. The problem is, if that's true, then every civilization that's ever existed is fascist. Except, of course, for you. What a convenient little thing. It's a joke, man. But to call critical race theory racial sensitivity, that's BLM. That's how BLM was framed. Trump could have done better on it, but Trump was right to emphasize America. You know, I'd get lost in the weeds of detail. Because I know so much about critical race theory. I've studied critical theory for years. It's not only academically a joke, it's racist. It is racist. They are They can say that they're not race realist and say, well, we believe that it's just a construct. But you treat the construct as if it's something to be cherished and prized and even solidified. Lines of demarcation. Blitzy said Trump in the comments, Trump had to interrupt to defend himself against Biden's lies. I agree with this, but I would say that there's, let him do it. Look, if I was there, if you were there, would you have done that? Or would you have simply written it down on a piece of paper and just known how to play that game and go, yeah, I can look at all the lies he's done. And then your soundbite's dope because instead of interrupting, which gives the soundbite of, okay, everybody's going to go, this is terrible. Instead, you would be able to have a soundbite, which is what this is about. That's why I'm not trying to diminish it. This is what it is. That a soundbite, you'd be able to say, he said this, he said that, he said this is why it's wrong. And you'd be able to think longer about it to process what you want. I've been in those situations. And yes, it was 2-on-1, which means that's even more important to just let those two do it and write down your thoughts. And when it comes to your turn, be the and to interrupt in a way. Look, I am not against interruption per se on a television debate because it's pageantry, it's theatrics. But even then, you can have too much of a good thing, right? You can have too much of a good thing. Go back to when Trump was debating Hillary. It's a perfect example. Some of the greatest lines, right? What was the one? Because you'd be in prison. You wouldn't be. I wouldn't be out here doing this. He goes, yeah, that's right. Because you'd be in prison. And everybody, boom, air horns and stuff. All the memes went nuts. That was an interruption. He was tucking that in, but it was strategic. It was thought through, not simply react. Force. Even in his situations where he was being forceful with people like Jeb Bush, for the most part, it was during his time. And then when it wasn't, it would normally be just a real quick thing, low energy. He would pound away at brands or images that he was hoping to instill in people's minds about those candidates. And he would use that and back down and leave that person there because he knew that person couldn't answer that. It was smart. It was well played. And it was even if Trump did it half the time, if he did it half the amount of time that he did this time, I think it'd be dramatically better. And by better, I mean more effective. For optics. Because I don't take this too seriously. Chris Wallace and Joe Biden repeat Charlottesville very fine people hoax. And this is actually infuriating. This is infuriating to me. I was wrapped up in this crap. I wasn't even in Charlottesville. I never got the freaking memo. Never got the memo, man. Why? Oh, I don't know. Because I'm not a freaking racist. Oh, but I'm a white guy. Perpetuating the system. That's some Jim Crow crap. Both moderator Chris Wallace and Democrat nominee Joe Biden claimed that President Trump said in response to riots in Charlottesville in 2017 that neo-Nazis were very fine people. Verdict, false. False. As Breitbart News has noted in fact check after fact check. And this is why when people say, I only believe in the facts, you're not serious people. You are not serious people. Dangerous maybe, but not serious. Maybe seriously dangerous. President Trump repeatedly condemned the neo-Nazis in Charlottesville in August 2017. Quote, totally. Oh, kind of neat. Moreover, the neo-Nazis were not the only violent group in Charlottesville. The clash was not with those standing against hate peacefully, but with violent, black-clad Antifa extremists. As to the very fine people, Trump had been referring to peaceful protests both for and against the removal of the statue. And it was of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. He completely condemned the extremists, as the timeline and transcript confirm. August 12th, Trump condemned violence on many sides in Charlottesville. August 14th, Trump condemned neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups in a White House statement. August 15th, Trump condemned neo-Nazis totally, praised nonviolent protesters on both sides. Here's Trump. Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as neo-Nazis, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine. So right there, you are already seeing a line of demarcation, which should be a charitable understanding. To go, yes, obviously, there's a difference between somebody who's there for free, let's say free speech, for example, or not wanting to burn down the democracy of the dead, and someone with tiki torches who's talking about racism. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. Yes. And then he says, I'm not talking about neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. This is a joke for people who say he is a racist. He's a racist. You can shove it. You and that new Jim Crow crap, that critical race theory crap, you can shove it where the sun doesn't shine. Take a knee for Jesus. For real. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, yes. And you want to know who wasn't there? You want to know who was not there and they got wrapped up in all of this? The Proud Boys. Proud of my boys. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Did they get lumped in all of that? They weren't there. It's in the news too. They weren't there. Again, the news. Not serious. These people suck at writing news. If you want news, tune in every weekday, 10 a.m. right here. Share it with your friends. I got you in good hands here. Last night, Joe Biden said Antifa is an idea. An idea. I take a middle ground. And I could be wrong because apparently The Nation, which is a left-wing publication. I used to subscribe, actually, back even when I was with Leadership Institute, when they honored me and stuff. That the thing is that I always felt that having a well-rounded perspective. I had subscriptions to National Review, American Conservative, which at the time was paleoconservative, Chronicles, which is paleoconservative and traditional, right? More focused on Catholicism than strict populism per se, right? The Nation, Mother Jones, and Reason Magazine. So I had like gobs of subscriptions, right? So that I could get from the libertarian side, from the hard left side, from the kind of more mainstream Democrat side, to get all that. And my position has been, not only is Antifa an idea, but it is it's a convention. Okay, so it doesn't have like a single place that you go that's like, oh, well, here's our headquarters. But if you take these groups and you say, okay, so this socialist alternative or any of these Marxist groups, and I would even consider BLM as an official national and international movement, I would see them as very similar to Antifa. But these people in Antifa, strictly speaking, are oftentimes associated in different collectives, and they use that as an umbrella statement regarding who they are. It's a sleight of hand, because they can say, well, we're not organized. All the while they're pulling shields out of a U-Haul truck. And everybody's going in different directions. And I showed you, by the way, the Sunrise Movement. I showed you the game plan that they have. It's dramatic. It's extremely efficient, by the way. Okay. Had Enough said Fox is just doing a CYA for Wallace incompetence. Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Melissa wrote in the comments, true, Biden would have sunk his own ship. And he should have let him. He should have given him enough space to sink himself. Although, to be honest, sure, there were parts where he sounded kind of dumb, like the Green New Deal thing. He said he was against it, and then he kind of said he was for it. And things like that. And he didn't even realize that Kamala Harris was one of the, what did she, co-sign it, sponsor? What was it? She could have easily done that. He could have, Trump could have done that, yeah. Judy wrote, Trump pounced on Biden to try to get him to lose his temper, but for once he did not say, hey, man, Chris Wallace is a Democrat and has always been just like his dad. Deep state stooge. Yeah. He's a deep stater, no doubt about it. And, and that's the thing, too, is that I think that Trump's normally good. One of his many strengths is to read a room, right? Get a feel for what he's doing. And let's say that his idea was to really get Biden off mark. He should have known after a while that that particular technique was not sufficient. Unless he was just like, I'm blitzing the whole time and hoping it's going to happen. That's a risk. That's a risk. Because it leaves you vulnerable. If you're blitzing every time, it leaves you vulnerable. It's the way it works. But Antifa, right? Antifa is a violent organization. And by organization, I'm saying that in the same way that someone would say that the Southern Baptists are that way, right? Each individual Baptist church, by the way, is an independent church, right? It's a local church. But yet they have an allegiance where they work together by convention. I think that's what's happening here. Which wouldn't be surprising because they're both based off of a democratic congregational styled model. Both of them. I think it's a great analogy. I think people should have a better understanding for the structure of this. Otherwise, they're going to look a little silly. But it also would say it's more than an idea. It is an idea, but it's more than that. And strike that balance so that they can quantify to what extent that is true or what extent that's a cop-out and a deception. Yeah, fact check. Chris Wallace falsely claimed Trump is ending racial sensitivity. Yeah, Trump banned a specific kind of racial insensitivity training, which involves critical race theory, which, by the way, I shared it. I've shared it before. We need to have like a special place that's got a lot of these memes and these slides logged because we go back to them. The National Museum of African American History and Culture shared a number of slides, and on those slides, they were describing whiteness and the problems of whiteness. And on there were things like individuality, the nuclear family, being prompt and on time, hard work, respect for authority, linear thinking, mathematics, science, the concept of progress. That is critical race theory. That is wrapped up in it. Unbelievable. On a practical level, okay, well, we're going to read this because this is a good definition. Critical race theory is the idea that the major institutions of the United States are tainted by slavery and racism because they were founded when slavery was still legal in parts of the country. According to the late Derek Bell, who founded critical race theory, the very institution of private property is tainted by racism. Again, private property. Private property, man. Even the civil rights movement was regrettable to some extent, Bell believed, because it created an illusion of racial equality. Red, yellow, black, and white, we are precious in his sight. Yes. Only the massive redistribution of wealth, well, here's that commie crap again, driven by the creation of socioeconomic rights, can cure American society of its systemic racism, the conspiracy theory holds. On a practical level, critical race theory teaches that social interactions are guided by white supremacy. They'll use the phrase whiteness. And that society is corrupted by systemic racism, according to which black Americans must always, and I would contend inevitably, be the victim, even if only unconsciously so. Yeah. Christopher Rufo, contributing editor for the Manhattan Institute City Journal, he's been exposing this stuff left and right. If you want to know exactly what kind of trainings we're talking about, go there. This is interesting. Yeah, and had enough. Had enough. I dig that, by the way. Had enough. CRT is sick. Yeah, it's true. Totally true. Judy says Antifa's on a payroll to begin a revolution. Look to George Soros. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, let's see. Herminia Salas. Biden did not send to Dem states to avoid chaos. Huh. Huge Hispanic voters at huge Hispanic voters. They're like all like really fat. Oh, grammar, you're good. Huge Hispanic voters at Telemundo say President Trump overwhelmingly won the debate, 66 to 34%. Now look at this. Look at that sad person right there. Look at that guy on the left. He's like, oh. The girl on the right is like, I don't know. She looks like she might be down with the Trump. Yeah. Overwhelmingly. That's all it's in. Yeah. Oh, really? It's just a lot of the repeated thing. What the heck? Yeah, it's Telemundo viewers. They all agree. They don't all agree, but 2 to 3. I mean, it's amazing. The news: Proud Boys celebrate after Trump's debate call out. And by the way, let me say this, man. Do you know how many times I've heard racist lefties, these people who believe in critical race theory and lash themselves for being born white, and defend the idea of they're pretending to be black or whatever. You know, you're transracial and stuff. These people are totally raging racists, okay? But do you know how many times I've heard them say, oh, I heard a dog whistle. Wait, Biden said it twice last night. And I'm thinking, the concept of a dog whistle is that you're not hearing it unless you're a dog. Unless you're a dog. And yet all these people, they're like, oh, there's the dog whistle. And I go, yeah, because you're super duper racist. Everything is a dog whistle to you. Yeah, Judy wrote, this morning before Biden began his train trip, his speech was memorized, exactly the same words as last night. And his wife is very afraid. Oh. But thing is, yeah, Proud Boys. We'll show some of that in the memes. I won't spend too much time. Other than, yeah, there's a debate as to whether or not in the head honcho over there with the Proud Boys doesn't necessarily consider it a shout out like, you know, stand down and stand back, I think is what it was. Stand down, stand back. As much an endorsement as it was a refocus on condemning what everybody sees. Everybody sees when they turn on the internet, when they turn on the news, when they look out on the streets of their town. I drove downtown Grand Rapids after George Floyd, and you want to know what? The place was wrecked. Downtown was wrecked. People burned stuff, broke stuff, shattered things, lit stuff on fire. And you want to know what it was? BLM. Period. That's not even debatable, man. Antifa. It's their philosophy, dude. It's their philosophy. They believe that it is perfectly fine to commit violence. The Sunrise Movement is on video talking about that burning buildings and smashing windows is not just reasonable to do, but in fact that it's a powerful way to send a message. Their philosophy of violence is not what you think. They are dangerous people. And not just because of what they do, but they're dangerous because of what their philosophy will permit. Which is why you have DAs all over the place in these cities letting people out. Not pressing charges. Oh, we're gonna let it go. We're gonna let it go. Tucker Carlson has a whole segment on the what is it, Bail Project? Rob Smith. Oh, it's good. This is good. Let's see this. Wow. See if I can get it. There we go. Yeah. All the times Trump has denounced white supremacists. Targeting the Jewish community. Talking about anti-Semitism. And that a lot of work needs to be done to root out hate and prejudice and evil. Recent threats, again, targeting Jewish community centers. This is back in 2017. We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. The riots in Charlottesville a year ago resulted in the senseless death and division. I condemn all types of racism and active violence. We forcefully condemn the evil of anti-Semitism and hate must be defeated. And finally, the great Steve Cortez debunks the very fine people smear that Chris Wallace didn't even bother to fact check. The lie that won't die. Go read that over at Human Events. The lie that won't die. Trump and the very fine people in Charlottesville. An unsubstantiated slander that damages our public discourse and further erodes trust in an incredibly biased press. Go read it. Go read it. You know, I have a great example. Of this. And yeah, find me on Twitter at Paleocrat, by the way. Same thing with YouTube. Okay. So the thing is that I was at I was a VIP over at a rally with Pence and John James and others. What, about a year and a half ago, something like that, 2 years ago. And when they came, The last election cycle. So when they came, I noticed somebody, and I won't out this person, but I noticed somebody that I knew who was an activist. Hardcore Never Trump. Hardcore Antifa. Hardcore. Talked to this person, right? And said, I know why you're here. It was going to be one of those moments you always see on TV when there's rallies and somebody gets inside and they're yelling, "Rah!" And everybody starts chanting, USA, USA, and they drag the people out. The cops, the security, grab the person and drag them out. It's kind of like a highlight to the show. It's like a WWE environment in the first place. And so I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to ruin it. It's going to be a highlight, and you'll make the news, right? So I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything at all. I'm waiting as it's going. I mean, I know this, you know. So I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And I thought she's got to be waiting for when Trump, or not Trump, when Pence does his thing. And lo and behold, Pence gets up, and I'm just waiting and waiting. And it was hilarious because he was talking about the attack on the synagogue and how anti-Semitism, the Trump administration is going after anti-Semitism. The anti-Semitism has no place. And that this kind of racism and bigotry, this supremacy, the Nazis, that they need to go. He was strong about it. And all of a sudden I hear screaming behind me. And I knew. And everybody, USA, USA. And I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I'm looking around. People were loving everything. I said, look at that. Look at that. Called it like Babe Ruth, man. Said, that's going to happen. Well, later on, I went on the news, and I discovered what she did. She had a shirt that blamed them of being Nazis. And I thought, oh my gosh, what? Of all the shirts that you wore going in here, and look at what you did. But that is the truth about this entire situation. Whenever they bring up Charlottesville, they look that freaking dumb. They look that absurd. It's like the people recently when Trump was, they were there after having negotiated a peace deal with Israel. Monumental, by the way. Massive and not even done yet. There's more coming. Monumental moves for the peace of Israel, regardless of what one believes regarding the nation of Israel and their treatment of Palestine or anything else. To sit there and say an idea about peace between former enemies, landmark, historical. And what happens? People get on when he comes out and he's standing at the podium, and people in the chat, oh, it looks like Hitler. He's such a Nazi. Yeah, because that's what Hitler did. Hitler was always trying to bring peace to the Jews. Oh my gosh. That's how stupid this is. And the only way they get away with it is they keep watching stuff that doesn't deal with the facts. I won't let, if somebody was being interviewed and I was interviewing somebody and they did that, it'd be one of the rare occasions that I would literally stop them mid-sentence, shut them down. I'd say, number one, you're a liar. Liar. And everybody should simply call people who do that. And look, maybe you don't want to be too mean because there's some people who are literally ignorant. They're not very serious people. They don't really understand anything about news or media at all. They're just knee-jerk reaction. Wow. Like that chatty Cathy doll from Planes and Trains and Automobiles, John Candy. Tweet, 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 selfie. Tweet, tweet, selfie. Non-serious people. But those who are, those people who go out and you know the types. We all got buddies like this. You know the type that sit there and they're always talking about politics all the time on their streams all the time, right? Like I do. Okay, so I'm not dogging them all the way. But people who go on there and say, he has never condemned racism. Liars. You need to call them out. You need to call them out because their best answer back to that is, yeah, well, it wasn't fast enough. It wasn't in the words I wanted him to say. You can't get any more clear than that. What a horror show, says the Talking Heads bemoaning a Shoutfest, who've been hosting horror show Shoutfest for the past 25 years. Longer than that, man. Longer than that. But he might be going back to, let's say cable news or whatever. Cernovich wrote, Biden did well. He doesn't have anything to gain and much to lose. Makes complete sense that the media wouldn't want their candidate to risk it. Yeah, because there's a lot of people saying that they need to cancel the next two debates. And look, I wouldn't, again, as I said, there is a risk to it. But at the same time, I think it was maybe bad enough that even more people on the fence would understand. Although if you ask them, what would you prefer? They would probably say a more respectful debate rather than don't debate again. Andy, no. Rose City Antifa is a group. Antifa 7 Hills is a group. Antifa Sacramento is a group. Atlanta Anti-Fascists is a group. Youth Liberation Front is a group. There are many, many Antifa groups, and they are violent. Yes, because their philosophy is violent, and most of them have mental issues anyway. I have one, right? I'm bipolar. I talk about it on the show. Herminia says, in the comments, Biden did not answer any question about what to do about the virus. He talked about what Trump did well or not well, right? Yeah, because he doesn't have to. When you're not in the lead, when you're not an incumbent, you can just tear down that person. You have to present a positive case as well about what you would do. But it has to be two-pronged. Willie Hoops wrote, Chris Wallace was the real horror show. He interrupted President like 25 times. True. Totally true. Robert Barnes, the guy spreading the most hoaxes tonight is Joe Biden. The Charlottesville hoax. The bounty hoax. Did you hear that? Yeah. There was a bounty on the heads of the vets. The bounty hoax. The soldier loser hoax. Yes, we've already talked about how that's a hoax. And on it goes. Will the media fact check those? No. No. Arthur Schwartz goes, does Biden know that Kamala Harris was a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so Kamala Harris was a co-sponsor. And he's like, I don't believe in that. Well, why would you think I support that? Yeah. Trump debated to a Twitter audience tonight, not the elderly voters who are in the weeds on these issues. Bigly mistake. John Vigilant wrote, elderly voters watch Tucker, and he educates them on this stuff. Don't underestimate them. I did and was surprised talking to my grandfather. He knew it all. It's true. It's, there's a debate over who do you think the audience affected the most? Like, do you believe that there was anyone on the fence? Do you even believe that? Do you believe by this point, people know Joe Biden? People already dealt with Kamala Harris during the primary, so they know who that is. Nobody voted for her. I mean, it's amazing that they picked her. I guess that's kind of a little bit almost like picking Pence, though, to be frank. Cassandra Fairbanks, the Republicans whining about Trump's debate performance were never Trump in 2016. I don't believe that. And they clearly still don't understand why he won. The thing is, look, I like Cassandra. I've said it many times. I've said I would love for her to listen to the show. I think she'd like it. But on this, I got to respectfully disagree. I do. Matt Walsh. The media is being pretty reasonable. Well, this is weird. Okay. They just need Trump to publicly denounce white supremacists 12 times a day. While Democrats actively defend, promote, and fund the left-wing terror groups that are currently burning down our cities. I don't see the problem here. Sharia says in the comment, no one's on the fence. People have already decided. I think so too. I think so too. So Axios, Chris Wallace, are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and say that they need to stand down? Pedro Gonzalez writes, this is nonsense. These are not white supremacists or militias, but Black Lives Matter and Antifa have been rioting and robbing, beating and murdering civilians and police across the country. By even entertaining this question, the false premise survives intact, and it's even reinforced. That is so true. That is so true. It's unbelievable. You know, that people can watch this and somehow magically convince themselves that all of the black people pouring out of the shoe stores and of Target and of everything else, all caught on camera, that really those people are KKK. Now, is there evidence of people who are white supremacists who engage in violence as agitators or provocateurs? Probably. In fact, I would categorize in a weird way Antifa with that. Antifa is largely a white group. Those who are involved with Antifa, by and large, are a bunch of whitey McWhitey pants. They don't understand why black people don't accept Antifa. Or they do, and they say, well, they're just too scared to come out and be part of us, so we're going to put up our fist in their stead. They got a white messiah complex. Have you ever seen their communes, man? Yeah. It's like right out of Woodstock, dude. Hippie McHippie land. Mixed with dangerous, violent punk culture. I don't want to dog punk culture. I like punk rock. You know, but the thing is, man, like, Antifa is a white supremacist organization. They're grotesquely racist. Grotesquely. And BLM, to the merit, BLM, local chapters of it, local organizers on a lower level, right? They're understanding now that while Antifa will show up, what they do ends up reflecting very poorly on them. So when Antifa's going and bashing in windows, smashing in cars, throwing in, and you can watch it, there's a video where there's a car and nobody even knows, like, why is this old police car even in the road? Was an officer even driving this car? How did they get this old police car? Who's driving it? Nobody's there. Somehow it's there, and all of a sudden the Antifa people come from all over, and it looks like they're not together. But as you analyze it, a black veteran who knows about this stuff, is analyzing, I believe he's a veteran, analyzing this stuff and saying, look at how coordinated each person coming up from a different angle, and then look at how they all leave. And the only people who remain are a lot of black people jumping up and down, super excited. Oh, look at this. And then the optics of that. Could those people in the masks be white supremacists? Yes. Yes. In all likelihood, they are. And they are because Antifa's white supremacist. It's a white supremacist group. It's a racist organization. They don't even know it because they're so convoluted. It's why they can share memes of, shots kind of like the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, like the old footage from the boats that it's coming up on D-Day and the front comes down and they're getting in the water, boom, 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 and they're getting shot, but they're going and taking the Nazis head on. And they'll share those memes and describe themselves in that way, that they're just like them taking on the fascists. All the while not accepting or even realizing the fact that the way that Antifa presently defines fascism would include America at that time, the military in particular at that time. I don't know any better. Stupid dummies. Willie says, Jeremiah, keep up the good fight. You better believe it, bro. You'd better believe it. I ain't going nowhere. Dude, 5 days a week. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. 10 o'clock. Or the closest thing. I'm not on a commercial station, so I don't have to be at 10 o'clock. If you guys have to deal, I'll get an intro thing with some music that I've created. And that way it's like a waiting room. And it'll play clips, getting people all pumped up and stuff. Getting jazzed out on coffee. Had enough. MSM equals Joseph Goebbels clones. Let's see. So I posted this. Man. What did you take away? Let's go ahead and put this back up here. Let's see. What did you take away from last night's debates? Did anything said or done change your mind? I'd love to hear it. Did it change your vote? James goes, absolutely unprofessional. Nothing changed my mind. Jamie Holt, Chris Wallace, if you two little craps don't stop fighting, I'll turn this car around right now. Mike says, the Republic is doomed. I'm waiting for our Caesar. Another one says, I'm more interested in the VP debates. Let's see here. One says, Kamala will eat Pence alive. He'll be crying for mother. Another commenter, Trump spewed more and more lies, falsely attacked Biden's family. And look, I'll only say this, because I think I dealt with a lot of the rest of it, is that I don't think that he should have continued going on about Hunter, especially, I'm glad he brought it up, right? Because Hunter really is a problem, and that would be razzmatazz on Biden, right? He's going to get grumpy about it. But Biden pivoted in a smart way to then begin talking about Beau. And that is, it's like, it's sacred ground. You know, I know a lot of people who come to me, they don't like my views. They say, you're a MAGA guy, dude. You're like a hardcore Trump person. I don't like your views on this and that, and I don't like your religious views. You know, they might be an atheist or something, and they think that my religious views are wrong, but they're really afraid to come up and talk to me because of what I went through with my daughter's life and death with childhood brain cancer. And the way that impacted me. Sacred ground. Chris Tanner. I doubt anything changed for me, but I hope for anyone on the fence who wants to vote third party sees Trump getting in as is not a worse option than Biden, but is an atrocity to compared to having Biden. So it sounds like he's actually saying that they're not too far off, and that people want to vote third party, they can. One says, I think Trump supporters were probably very happy with his performance and the strength he showed, but I very much doubt if he won new supporters. I agree. I think people are already cooked in. I'm sorry, baked in. Another comment. Nothing is what it seems. Such spectacles are designed to hijack, distract people's emotions, and allow real power players to do their thing undisturbed. Mo believes Trump is trying to hand Biden the election. Do you believe that? I don't believe that. I think it's easier to say it's more likely that he just did not do as well as he could. My husband described Trump as like a chimpanzee doing a dominance display. Aren't we all? I'm not kidding. What do you're a sciencey person. I know who you are. You're a sciencey person. It's what this is. Jumping around, shrieking, beating his chest, banging on things to make the most possible noise. Pretty accurate. Another one, I was a decided voter before the debate, and I feel so much more convinced to support my candidate now. One says, I'm 100% sure I like Joe Jorgensen. Is it Jorgensen or Jorgensen? Nobody cares. Nobody cares, man. Nobody cares. The country is literally in a civil war, bro. I'm very sorry to tell you. To be like, hey man, come on, let's make progress. We can maybe get 5%, and if we do, we can get, in 4 years, we can get more money. No, no. Nobody believes, nobody cares. Nobody cares right now. The debate makes me want to vote third party like I did last time. Anyway, Biden was weak and too submissive. I was screaming at him because there are so many clapbacks he could and should have made toward Trump. That's a good, okay, I got you. That's Deja. That's Deja. Yeah, okay. Yeah. She's a diva, by the way. She's old school, man. Old school diva. Yeah. I wasn't expecting much from this debate, so I do give the win to Biden because he could at least keep coherent sentences. Well, I'm going to disagree on that. Trump needed a win. I don't know. I'm a progressive independent. I normally vote third party. I can't stand Trump. When the president can't denounce white supremacists, no. Joe, there's Jorgensen again. Oh no. Yeah, dude, Jorgensen might end up getting like, let's say a solid 5% of the vote. That would be big news, actually. The debate meant nothing to me. What they've done in the past and their views on life issues, what matters most. President Trump has done far more for this country than Biden has done in nearly 50 years. So what do you think? I'd love to hear what you've got to say about it. Okay? And we won't spend much time on this. Okay, but I'd love to hear what you've got to say about this debate. Do you think Trump won? Do you think Biden won? What were their strengths? What were their weaknesses? You can share that, of course, at facebook.com/Paleocrat or Jeremiah.Bannister. You can share it on Twitter at Paleocrat. Okay, you can find me twitter.com/Paleocrat, on YouTube. And please, people are watching it all over the place. And I'm very grateful that they're watching it on different channels. That helps those channels. But it really helps mine when you go to mine. That's youtube.com/Paleocrat. If you are not subscribed to me, but you watch it on one of the affiliate groups, please make sure to go to youtube.com/Paleocrat and subscribe to me today. So here's the deal. We're gonna we'll look at a couple memes. Nothing too big. Nothing too much. Whoa, man. Okie dokie. See, this is what I'm talking about, man. Antifa loonbirds. Look at this person. This person should be probably in a mental clinic, right? And I'm not meaning to be like rude about that. It's just true. Outrage as Whole Foods CEO says ignorance and poor choices cause obesity. Are people really mad? Are people mad about that? I mean, I guess there will inevitably be a very, very small, a very small group of people that would be angry over that. But the truth is, by and large, yes, man, ignorance and poor choices. You don't have to be rich to eat in ways that are not going to destroy you. Being black in the outdoors. What? How can you stay safe in nature? Do black people have it rougher? Like, are there people going, or like people in the woods that are like, is that a black person? What the heck? Or is that do deer and is that a problem for bears? Like, are they prejudiced? What's up with that? Oh yeah, look at that. He's wearing a Perry. Okay. Here's the quote. Proud Boys can stand back and stand by. That's what it was. Stand back and stand by. Because someone has to take care of Antifa and these people. That looks like, yeah. Yeah, the fellas are going to take care of some business. Proud of your mother freaking boy. Okay. Look, what's this about? Look at Trump's hair in this picture. Let me see if I can do a little bit of a zoom on that. Look at that, by the way. That's TMZ, man. There's no way that is the natural color of his hair. That's definitely the natural color of Biden's hair. And look at his face. You can tell so bad that he got that Botox done. I don't blame him, actually. What is this? If white people voted like black people. Yeah, oh, yeah, okay. That's actually true. It's true. It is true. Man who pushed boy, 8 years old, under train was used in a campaign to promote integration. But where is this? And what's up with that dude's name, man? Can you read that? Let me see this. Look at this. The picture. Schweizereichen. Look at the last name. Arbeiter Hilfswerks. Is that real? What the heck is that? What is that? Oh my gosh. Oh, this is good. You be careful. People in masks cannot be trusted. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we've got a person here. I love these pictures because they're so terribly drawn, right? Well, not the guy over there looking super buff and Chad, not that guy. Don't you know gender roles were forced onto you by your colonizers? Don't you know Catholicism was forced onto you by your colonizers? Latinx, indigenous. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you that is the new imperialism. X isn't even something they use, man. That's a Whitey McTighty thing. Whitey McRacist pant thing. Did we show this one before? Hey, how are you? And look, all these people. These people look like you're having a good time. See? They're just having a nice time. Everything's normal. What the world looks like. What the world looks like to a feminist. Hey, how are you? Sexual harassment. Oh, yeah, the building in the background. See that? The buildings? Phallic symbols of patriarchy. The sale sign, fat shaming. The baby is a future rapist. Oh, my gosh. And the mom might actually not just be a sellout breeder, but a terrorist. Making those babies. The baby's white. Ooh. Mansplaining. They could have said, what is it, man? Not just mansplaining. What is it when you're spreading? Manspreading. Is that what it is? Harassing women online, anorexic. Yeah, manspreading right there. Okay, yeah. He's manspreading. Yeah, the guy who's mansplaining back there, he's doing that posture kind of like Barack Obama was on the plane in front of those journalists where it's looking a little bit not cool. It kind of looks like, the whole banana in the pant thing. It's not fear, it's disgust. What is that about? Oh, it's not enough to be passively not communist. We must be actively anti-communist. Okay. Yeah. What do you want to be when you grow up? Astronaut, vlogger, YouTuber. Oh. Is that it? Yeah, that's all the memes for today. All right, look, hey, it works out perfectly fine. That's good. And yeah, we need to do more of these pictures of these guys. Because that's what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with sane people. We're dealing with people with a lot of mental issues going on. And it needs to have a serious discussion about what to do with people who have mental issues and who act out in these ways. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, man, but it's true, So I don't mean to be a jerk, but we kind of got to deal with these weirdos. All right. If you enjoy the show, make sure to go to paleocratdiaries.com where you can find descriptions about interviews and speeches if you'd like me to come and speak to your organization, your group, church, homeschool network, whatever it is, even public school. I've been to public schools and talked to different student organizations, things like that, as well as colleges and universities. But I'd love to do some interviews. I'd like to have people to come on too. So if you're interested, I got a guy that's kind of beating my door down on this. He's from the, what is it? It's an idea about the truth, right? And it's kind of a commitment to a notion of truth telling and figuring out truth when it comes to politics and economics. And so it'd be an interesting discussion with him. He's an interesting character. Okay, but any other inquiries, of course, membership, all the money that I make through this work that I do, 100% of that goes to my children's education at Sacred Heart Academy. You can find out more about that. There's actually a video a very popular one on my channel. If you go to youtube.com/Paleocrat, there is a video. I think it's in the Team Tiny Dancer playlist. And beware of that. There's a lot of just heart-wrenching, tear-jerker videos about my daughter, the inspirational life and the tragic and death of my daughter. But I have a video in there talking about an atheist family that returns to the faith after the loss of the daughter to cancer. That video, wildly popular. Number one, share it with all your friends. Share it with your family. I cannot even begin to tell you how many lives that has changed. People who've reached out to me and talked to me about how that story has changed their lives, including just any story of my daughter, right? And the ending, the themes at the end, the mottos at the end of every show. And I should actually start the show with the same thing, right? It should play a role. And you'll see my daughter in the end credits. You'll see her. There's a scene that says, who made us who we are. And I look at her and she looks at me, and then it shows our other daughter, Teresa, running toward the grave, and it shows the grave where I'll be buried next to her in the National Cemetery. But go watch that video. Okay. Absolutely amazing video. And it describes the school and how important that school has been to us. And that's where my kids go. And it's amazing. It's life-changing. Of course, you can do all of that. Send me an email, paleocratdiaries@gmail.com. Agree or disagree, love or hate, doesn't matter. Send me an email. I'd love to talk to you. And I always try to respond. If people add me on Facebook, if they, comment, even on Twitter, I won't get in long debates and stuff on social media, but I will try to respond to people, especially if it's personal and they reach out to me, stuff like that. And of course, make sure to check out the podcast I do with my buddy Chad Lutsky. There's a new episode actually up. It'll come up, I think tonight, a little bit later this evening, there will be a podcast coming out with some amazing debates that take place in that. And you can find that at Paleo Cheese, youtube.com/PaleoCheese, spelled with a Z. Paleo Cheese everywhere, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all over the place, Paleo Cheese. And Meaning of Catholic. And in fact, in 10 days, 11 days, I'm going to be on Meaning of Catholic to debate Timothy Flanders over the idea of whether or not people should vote for Donald Trump. I think he's going to take the position that third parties or abstention is okay. And I'm going to take the position that they need to get their butts to the polls because everything is on the line, folks. So again, thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to be here tomorrow and Friday, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Okay. Make sure to send me all that stuff you want me to talk about, interviews, everything. We'll be right back here with more Paleocrat Diaries. Until next time, never give up. Keep on smiling and memento mori. If I don't talk into microphones, I don't make that mad cash. Making all that money. Making that mad loot, right?
Mind control.
So we see the minority elite imposing their ideology on an unwilling and resentful populace. This causes a backlash. People get ticked off.
The left is working long and hard to make us feel as if we've done something wrong. Worse yet, that we are the problem. Don't let people just rip on your heritage. Don't let people just rip on your traditions. Don't let people rip on your heroes. Stand up for what you believe, what made you who you are. So unless this disenfranchised majority begins standing up for what they believe in their heart of hearts to be true, I think we'd be left with nothing more than a dirge, and maybe a funeral procession.